In many rural areas of the United States, wild boars are no longer just a potential threat. They have become an urgent problem for agricultural production. They destroy crops, damage infrastructure, and force farmers to constantly find ways to fight back. But what worries wildlife managers the most is not only the scale of destruction, but the incredibly fast way these animals adapt to traditional control methods. Local authorities have decided to adopt a new mindset in wildlife control. Instead of managing one animal at a time, the most effective approach today is managing the entire sound. This method is not about catching more, but about breaking the behavioral structure of the whole group in the shortest amount of time. The key lies in three factors: clearly understanding wild boar movement patterns, attracting them naturally without causing panic, and handling the entire group at the same time instead of individually like before. This approach helps reduce numbers quickly, limits their ability to adapt, and creates long-term effectiveness for farmland. The solution chosen by most Americans is the Jaeger Pro Hog Trap. This trap is considered a more advanced and effective large-scale trapping solution compared to many traditional traps. The Jaeger Pro Trap is set up by installing a panel system surrounding the target area, combined with an automatic gate system to create a clear guided space. The panels are firmly secured and arranged along familiar movement routes to ensure the target moves directly into the trap. The installation is done step by step to make sure the entire trap structure is stable and ready for operation. Unlike manual traps, this entire system is designed for simultaneous trapping, precise, controlled, and remotely managed. After the frame is completed, the gate system and activation mechanism are carefully tested to ensure accurate response when triggered. The gates must close at the same time and fast enough to prevent wild boars from escaping. This testing phase plays an important role in minimizing technical errors and increasing capture efficiency. This type of trap does not rely on force or quick reflexes like older methods. It works based on three principles. Instead of creating pressure, the trap is designed as a neutral behavioral zone where the sounder can move, feed, and interact normally over multiple cycles. This allows the system to fully record the behavior of the entire group before making the decision to trigger the trap. Behavior recognition. Instead of activating when one animal appears, the system only makes the decision when the entire sounder has gathered, including the lead sow and the younger pigs, and when they no longer show signs of caution or hesitation. When the right moment arrives, the trap mechanism is activated in an instant, giving the sounder no time to react and no chance to escape. Right before the trap gate closes, everything looks completely normal. The entire sounder lowers their heads to feed, moving slowly, and none of them show any signs of alertness. Then, in just a split second, the trap gate drops all at once, a clean, decisive sound, with no chasing at all. The pigs barely have time to understand what happened before the entire group is already enclosed inside the trap. It is exactly this perfect timing and complete surprise that keeps every individual contained, while other sounders receive no warning signals at all. As a result, future avoidance behavior does not develop. This is the core advantage that older methods struggle to achieve. Not allowing a single animal to escape, carrying the memory of danger, is exactly why this system can be reused for a long time in the same way. Immediately after the trap is activated, the top priority is keeping the sounder stable and reducing stress as much as possible. The space is tightly controlled but still well ventilated, and the animals are quickly observed to ensure there are no serious injuries. Transport is carried out using specialized vehicles, moving in a stable and controlled way. In wild boar management, what happens after a successful trap is just as important as the trapping itself, because even one small mistake can turn into a major risk. In the United States, wild boar control is not simply a reaction, it is part of sustainable agricultural management. The principles placed first include following the law, complying with local regulations, prioritizing humane methods, and aiming for long-term protection of crops and ecosystems. When done correctly, not only do farmers benefit, but the natural environment also becomes more balanced. The most effective solution does not lie in rushed action, but in building a strategy that matches the natural behavior of wild boars. When approached correctly, sounder-based control not only protects crops in the short term, but also brings long-term stability to agriculture and the ecosystem. By daylight, this field may still look normal, but after just one night, by the next morning, the soil has been torn apart in patches, roots ripped upward, empty spaces left behind, as if something passed through and swept away every ounce of hard work. What worries them is not only the scale of destruction, but the fact that it returns almost every night, consistent, relentless, and unpredictable. And that is the sign that if no action is taken in time, an entire harvest could disappear. That is exactly why our team is here again, to install traps strong enough and solid enough to hold the line. Without wasting time, we completed the first net trap that same day on the southern edge of the forest. Before long, it gave its first signal. One boar had been caught inside, but instead of staying contained, it reacted violently, charging straight into the netted gate again and again. The mesh stretched tight, shaking wildly with every impact. The decision was made immediately after that. We would not dismantle the old trap, but we would no longer rely on this type of system. At once, on the northern side of the forest, where the terrain was tighter and more enclosed, a different setup was built, a steel door trap. Heavier frame, stronger locks, a gravity drop gate that did not depend on tension like netting. It only needed to be strong enough to withstand a direct hit from a herd of wild boars. When everything was ready, we waited in silence for nightfall. The tension in the air was so thick that no one said a word. Then the first movement appeared. The smell of bait quickly drew in the herd. And when the moment came, when every last one had stepped inside, click, the trigger was activated. The gate dropped shut. Inside, several boars reacted instantly. They burst into frantic motion, searching for an escape. But every direction was sealed. Metal rang out in sharp beats. Short, clean, final. We looked at one another. For the first time, the trap had worked exactly as intended. At another point near the forest edge, the reinforced trap set by Tom did not take long to activate either. Though it caught only a few, it would still reduce the damage to this season's crops to the local farmers. Once the trap was sprung, the boars tried to escape by instinct. But that was impossible. They had been fully contained inside the solid structure we had spent so much effort preparing. And did not stop there. Texas is home to more than 3 million feral hogs. So together with landowners, we often place traps like these out in the fields. The trap in this area became another hotspot, stirring up noise at the edge of the woods. When large, powerful boars were found contained inside, it proved one thing clearly. The system was working exactly as we had planned. Every time a trap was triggered, we did not rush to celebrate, but at the very least, everyone felt a little more at ease. The traps continued to be reinforced. We continued the control operation. This time, we were determined to catch every last one, to leave them no chance to damage this area again. Every year, our state of Texas alone suffers around $400, $500 million in economic losses caused by wild hogs. This final night was considered the decisive one. Once again, we took our positions, held our breath, and waited. At the first trap, the herd had grown larger. Not only adults, but smaller ones as well entered the enclosure. The space inside began to tighten. Then, at the perfect moment, the trap let out a chilling clack. Instantly, movement inside became faster, more violent, more desperate. Heavy blows slammed into the steel frame. Metal rang out sharply. Others circled and shoved. The entire trap shook in waves. But this time, just like the night before, not a single one escaped. We kept watching, kept waiting, and then everything reached its peak. A massive herd appeared, not scattered individuals anymore, but a dense, moving flood. They fed greedily on the bait scattered across the ground until BM, the gate crashed down. At once, the trap exploded with noise inside. Feet pounding the dirt, steel bars rattling without pause. And in that moment, we understood more clearly than ever. If the trap system had not been strong enough, everything would have burst apart. The next morning, we did not dismantle the trap right away, because we knew there was still more out there, and we were right. Another large herd had been caught just before dawn. When we walked past, they became even more agitated. Several slammed into the steel frame so hard the entire trap shook repeatedly. And do you know what was inside that cage? The very reason those fields have been destroyed for weeks. As everything gradually came under control, the farm grew quiet again. No more fresh tracks each morning. No more furrows torn open after every night. This was not a hunt. This was the only way to save the harvest. Because once wild boars discover a stable food source, they do not stop on their own. In situations like this, what do you think matters more? A trap strong enough, or the patience to wait for the perfect moment? Leave your thoughts below. We are members of a wild hog control team in Oklahoma, and at Twin Eagle Ranch, there is no room for mistakes. More than 1,000 hectares of farmland are being destroyed day by day, fields torn apart, irrigation systems shattered, young corn and soybean sprouts wiped out in a single night. This is no longer a small problem. This is a fight for the survival of an entire harvest, and we do not rely on brute force, but on strategy. The screen of the Hawkeye camera we placed beside 3 big pig traps along the forest edge suddenly lit up. The hogs were in position. The bait Rooting juice, a mix of rotten cheese scent and sweet corn, was doing its job. 1:57 a.m. Dark shadows quietly entered the trap zone. No sound, no sign of suspicion. Wait a little longer. One more. Now, I hit the button. The round trap gate slammed shut. Instantly, the silence was ripped apart by the dry clang of metal striking metal. The hogs inside panicked, hurling themselves into the steel frame with such force that the whole area seemed to shake. The chaos lasted for several minutes before they finally realized they were completely trapped. To make sure nothing had gone wrong, we jumped into the Jeep Gladiator that same night and sped down the dirt trails. When the headlights hit the trap, the scene became crystal clear. The entire sounder, including hogs weighing over 200 pounds, had been captured. After the forestage area had been disturbed, the hogs began shifting toward lower ground. To block their movement, I decided to set 2 additional octagon-style traps near the livestock pens. It was a narrow position directly along the trail they regularly used to reach water. Fresh rooting marks in the soil proved this had become the new hotspot. 9:21 p.m. The screen vibrated with movement. A large group entered. They sniffed, tested every steel bar. The tension weighed on every second. My hand stayed on the trigger button. Not too early, not too late. I held my breath. This is the moment. Press it. The steel frame shook violently. The hogs inside lost all sense of direction, crashing into one another in the darkness while their bodies slammed against the steel mesh. The chaos peaked before they slowly exhausted themselves and were locked in tight. Less than 2 hours later, at 10:50 p.m., the second trap alerted. This group was more cautious, just as they seemed to sense something was wrong. I activated the trap in time. 2 sounders. One night. Full control.